On today's episode of the Cryptoverse, Indian Bitcoin exchange Unocoin releases mobile wallet for iOS and Android. Circle allows you to send Bitcoin directly from your regular bank account with zero fees. Just register a debit card and from then on, you can send Bitcoin to any address in a single step. Get $5 cash back when you make your first $25 transaction by using the link in the video description below. Hi there guys, and welcome to the latest episode of the Cryptoverse, your regular dose of news and commentary on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and blockchains. I am your host, Chris Coney. So let's get into today's news. Today we turn once again to CoinDesk, coindesk.com, an article by Stan Higgins. Thank you, Stan, for writing this for us. It's relatively short but very potent. So the article is entitled Bitcoin Exchange Unocoin Releases Mobile Wallet for iOS and Android. And this is an Indian Bitcoin exchange, so this follows on from the recent stories I've been covering about India. So it begins by saying Indian Bitcoin exchange Unocoin has launched a new mobile wallet app. And not a moment too soon, I would say, given that the Indian government has declared recently that the 500 and the 1000 rupee notes are no longer legal currency. And if you've been following the Cryptoverse and reading the news recently, you'll know that's been causing a few problems. So moving on, it says that the exchange has published apps for both iOS and Android users, enabling the purchase and sale of Bitcoin directly, as well as access to live market data. So that's good. Now, the reason this is good for us in the Bitcoin community is that we want opportunities for people to see the benefits of using cryptocurrencies, and then when trouble like this arises, it kind of creates an incentive for them to move towards Bitcoin when they may have previously just not paid it any attention. Now, granted that the very reason the removal of the banknotes is causing so much trouble in India is because a lot of Indians transact in cash, and many of them don't have a bank account. So I can already see the objections being written in the comments for this video. People will say something like, well, if an Indian citizen doesn't have a bank account, they can't use this app to buy and sell Bitcoin on the Unocoin exchange. Well, that's correct, but not everyone has to. This is just a way for a flow of Bitcoin to enter the Indian economy. So once someone with a bank account buys some Bitcoin from Unocoin and then spends that with, say, a street vendor who doesn't have a bank account, we have liftoff. So that unbanked street vendor then spends the Bitcoin with another unbanked person, and on we go. So you only need that one initial person with a bank account to bring the Bitcoin in for a crypto economy to begin to establish itself outside the banking system. And that's what I'm excited about. So then we have a quote here from the co-founder of Unocoin, Abhinand Kassetti. He said, quote, "More than 300 million use their phones regularly for accessing the internet. This trend is expected to go up by 56% per year." Close quote. Well, that pretty much speaks for itself. One calculation I did, though, was to take those 300 million mobile internet users and then divide it by the population of India, which is just under 1.3 billion. And it comes out at 23%. So approximately a quarter of the population. Not too bad. So a quarter of the population in India regularly access the internet using their phones. Pretty good. Plus, it says here that the growth rate is over 50% annually, so that's even better. Now, with that said, let me now park my Bitcoin enthusiasm and my bias, and let me return to objectivity mode. So the question is the idea of establishing a Bitcoin economy in India actually going to work? Right? Because we can tend to get blinders. If we are so enthusiastic about Bitcoin, we can tend to just see what we want to see, completely lose our objectivity, and then look foolish. So that's why I say I re-engage objectivity mode. So is it really going to work? Well, I, for one, can see a major obstacle. And that obstacle is Bitcoin transaction fees. So it sounds like time for another spreadsheet analysis. And of course, here is a spreadsheet I prepared earlier. Now, for those of you listening to this on the audio only, I'll do my best to read it out. So what I've done is I've contrasted the United States of America with India in terms of their economies. So let's start off. United States, their per capita income, which is pretty much where you take the whole country's GDP and you divide it by the population to say that if everyone was earning an equal amount of money based on the size of the economy, based on how many people are there, if you spread the production of the country out evenly, how much would each person be earning? And in America, that's $57,220. Now, obviously, not everyone's earning that. People earn a lot more, not less, but that's the per capita income, the income per head, based on population size and size of economy. So that's generally a number that you would see to grade the kind of the prosperity of an individual country, because it grades the average prosperity of an individual in that country. So United States of America, $57,220 per capita income. On a Bitcoin price today of $731.29, that means that you could buy 78.25 Bitcoins with the annual salary of $57,220, right? So then what I did was I took the current Bitcoin transaction fee, which I got from this new tool that I found, and flick over to that. It's estimatefee.appspot.com. And all you have to do is visit that, and the page loads, and then it queries the Bitcoin Core node to see how busy the network is and what fees are being paid, and then gives you a real-time estimate of what fee you can expect to pay based on how fast you want the transaction to confirm. So right now it's like, it's about 80,000 Satoshis, put it that way. So I plugged that into my spreadsheet, and then I divided that by the price of a Bitcoin to work out what the fee is. And as of right now, if I want my Bitcoin transaction to confirm in 2 blocks, which would be 20 minutes, that would mean that the fee would be 56 cents. That's quite a lot, even for me in a Western country. So that was my baseline. And what I wanted to know is, when I say the Bitcoin transaction fees are going to be prohibitive for people in India, it'll become apparent as I go on to the next row here. So in India, the per capita income is $6,664, as opposed to $57,000 in America. So it's almost 10 times what it is in America versus India. And of course, the price of Bitcoin is the same. But with an Indian salary, your per capita income of $6,664, you could only buy 9.11 Bitcoins with that. If you spend all of that annual salary on Bitcoins, in India you would end up with 9.1 Bitcoins. In America, you'd end up with 78.2 Bitcoins. Now, because Bitcoin is a global currency, you're going to be paying the same transaction fee on the Bitcoin network, which is here it's 76,000 Satoshis, roughly 80,000 Satoshis. And because the international price of Bitcoin is the same, you end up with the same, which is 56 cents as a transaction fee. Now, which is relatively more expensive in India because of the smaller earnings. So in order to adjust for that, I created a third row where I looked at the difference between the two incomes. So I looked at how many Bitcoins you could buy with the per capita income from America and India, and then looked at what the multiple was. And it's actually, in America, you can buy 8.6 times more Bitcoin with the per capita income than you can in India. So that meant that I adjusted the Bitcoin transaction fee by 8.6 times. So in America, by American living standards, you earn 57,000 and you pay a 56 cent transaction fee. Relatively innocent. But pro rata in India, that would be the equivalent of $4.82. So to get a feeling of what it's like to be in India, earning the average Indian salary, and then using the Bitcoin network as it is today, imagine if in America or in England or wherever in the Western countries you are, imagine if you had to pay $5 for a transaction fee. How does that change the way you see the practicality of using Bitcoin? To me, it makes it absolutely ridiculous. So thanks for joining me today, guys. If you liked this episode, hit the like button. If you disliked it, hit the dislike button. Please leave me a comment below with some feedback and get subscribed. And please support the Cryptoverse and boost cryptocurrency adoption by going to cryptoversity.com/podcast and becoming a patron. From as little as $10 a month, you can secure Cryptoversity's future, get unlimited access to all Cryptoversity courses, and access a private patrons-only chat group where you get direct access to me. But that's all for today, guys. I will be back tomorrow with another episode of the Cryptoverse. So until then, it's me, Chris Coney, saying bye for now.